Ferris said, his tone uncharacteristically kind. She's only been missing for a week where all manner of dreadful things could have transpired. I clutched the edge of the counter as my mind raced with the horrific stories that had been occupying my thoughts ever since the night my best friend had failed to return from the enchanted forest surrounding our village. No number of search parties had uncovered any trace of her. She could have become lost, and after days of wandering without food, suffered a tragic demise. Or she could have been devoured by wild beasts, or... I shuddered in horror. Maybe she was murdered. Oh, I buried my face in my apron. Where do you come up with this nonsense? Ferris asked, his expression twisted in disgust from my recitation. Books, of course, he snorted. Of course. Just because it's in a book doesn't make it plausible. My eyes widened at such blasphemy. Of course it does. How is a storybook any different than a book of history? One day I hope you stop living inside your head and finally join the real world. Ferris looked as if he had a multitude of other annoying retorts to that statement, but to my surprise, rather than arguing with me, he instead rested a light hand on my arm. I know you're upset about Eileen, but this, he jerked his head towards my recipe book, won't bring her back. It'll at least help dissipate the pain. I returned to my baking, dumping my pre-measured flour into the mixing bowl before pulling out the jar of fairy dust Mother and Father kept in their off-limits cupboard. I carefully measured out a teaspoon. As I did so, a tear escaped and slid down my cheek into the bowl. Hopefully it won't hurt the recipe's outcome. Rosie. Ferris stepped forward to wipe away my tears with a surprisingly gentle touch. Are you going to be all right? My lip quivered and I frantically wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. Whatever fate has befallen her wasn't supposed to happen. Heroines don't die in their own fairy tales. Life isn't like your stories, Rosie, Ferris murmured as he wiped away another tear with his thumb. It's best you finally realize that. I clenched my jaw. He was wrong. Believing anything else was out of the question. No matter how tragic certain chapters seemed, ceasing to believe in happy endings was something I would never do. Despite how dark this chapter currently was. Rosie, dear, you're burning the custard. Mother's voice tore me from my daydreaming, or in this case, once again reliving the dark memory from last week that had changed everything. As midnight approached, Eileen's mother had rushed into the bakery during a terrible storm, dripping wet and sobbing, her expression wild and her eyes frantic, and informed us that Eileen had gone missing, having never returned from the forest. My constant worry knotted my gut. What had happened to her there? Rosie, the custard. Mother gently pushed me away from the hearth and took over stirring the custard. I blinked dazedly. Oh, sorry, Mother. Not ceasing her stirring, she laid a gentle hand over mine. Perhaps you should take a break today. Your father, Ferris, and I can manage. Guilt swirled through me alongside relief. Unless I was trying to bake my ever-elusive, grief-eliminating spell, the thought of spending an already hot afternoon over a sweltering fire was not at all appealing. I nodded. Mother offered a tight smile as she caressed my cheek with flour-coated fingers. Don't give up hope, dear. She's only been gone just over a week. Despite her assurances, she gnawed her lip worriedly. A week was a long time to be lost in an enchanted forest that possessed a mind of its own. Perhaps you should read. That always cheers you up. I'd been inhaling scores of books the last several days, mostly fairy tales to somehow try to dispel my aching grief. Immersing myself in magic and happily ever afters helped me hope they still existed. But one could only escape the real world for so long, for no matter how many times I lost myself within the pages of a book, I was eventually forced to leave. Once I did, I found myself swirling in that dark despair that came from the absence of my best friend and the unsolved mystery of what had become of her.